Hello everyone, how are we all doing? I'm Mark Suxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands. Brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their life lessons and how it's shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business.
And that then led to obviously giving birth to Harry, doubting whether I could be a mum, all the worries of work. That then led to postnatal depression, which unfortunately wasn't picked up until he was about 18 months old, slightly less than that. Because like a lot of mums do, I masked it. I felt like I wasn't good enough to be a mum.
Social media content planner Amy Downs discusses the pros and cons of social platforms from a business point of view and why it's important for you to have a strategy. Away from business, we also discuss social media on a personal level. Amy opens up about the harsh realities of Twitter trolls who have impacted her mental health and often crossed the line without repercussion. Now, I've known Amy for a while for her shared love and support in Ipswich Town Football Club and her experience of watching football over the years, good and bad, which has led her to become an advocate for women in football, ensuring a safe environment and equality for all at Portman Road. Throughout our chat, Amy touches upon her own work-life balance, the pain of redundancy, setting up her own business, and her honest take on motherhood, having been diagnosed with postnatal depression. Hear how this brave woman in business opens up about her life to date. This is one not to be missed. Amy, welcome to People Behind Brands podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm really good. I'm keeping busy, but simultaneously absolutely shattered, as I think is the way of a business owner, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I speak to a lot of business owners that are very tired and just looking forward to some success. So yeah, all good. So where are you joining us from today?
So I'm actually based in Leeds, in a little town called Pudsey, which is just outside Leeds, where I've been living. Well, I've been living up in Yorkshire for nearly 15 years now, which is crazy.
Yeah. So we'll come on to that in a bit because obviously you are from Ipswich. So we'll come on to that as well. But Amy joins us today to discuss her life lessons from the world of business and how she became known as a content planning wizard. Amy specialises in helping small business owners wave a magic wand over their social media campaigns and works towards their goals and objectives for a better online presence. On today's episode, we explore how her freelance business has evolved from humble beginnings, juggling a young family in between and starting a new life in a new location. So I've heard more than I've actually seen of you, Amy, to be fair, because I've known Amy for quite a while, but never actually met her in person. But we've had many discussions and debates regarding our shared interest with our sort of passion of Ipswich Town. So yeah, we'll come to that as well.
Our true love.
Our true love, yeah. So Amy is well known in the Ipswich community, appearing on many podcast platforms, never shy to showcase her opinions and challenge the status quo. So we'll definitely touch upon that in a bit. So where better to start than the beginning of the journey? So what gave you the courage to begin your own freelance business?
Well, I wish I could say that, I was in a job and I took the huge decision to move into freelance, but actually it was circumstance, as I know is the case for a lot of us as business owners. But I actually, after I graduated, so I trained as a journalist. After I graduated, I moved into freelancing. The first opportunity I had was as a freelancer working for Town 102 Radio, which used to be down in Ipswich. It was my dream job. I got to go to all the Ipswich press conferences. I absolutely loved it. And I really enjoyed that. But unfortunately, the timing, as literally the year I graduated, the country went into recession, so job opportunities were quite scarce, and I think I fell into, understandably to an extent, the fear of needing to earn, basically. So basically just taking any temp jobs and kind of losing my way in terms of what I really wanted to do, just prioritizing, right, I need some kind of an income, and I just wanted to get onto a career ladder, any ladder, but just be at the bottom of somewhere to be able to be in the world of work, which, I just spent 3 years of a degree and 12 months of a master's working towards. So cut forward to 2012, I think it was, that I got, I'd had a temp job at Asda. Their head office is based here in Leeds, and I was originally doing an admin job, and then I got promoted into their marketing team, which was fabulous. Had a good few years, really good experience there, learned a lot, and started to work with the social media team, helping them come up with content to promote the activities, the events that I was organising, and really thought I'd found my area. I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. And simultaneously alongside this, I'd grown a fairly big audience on Twitter, really good engagement, and I knew what to do in terms of connecting with people, particularly on Twitter. So I was really enjoying being able to put that into a professional role. And then we skipped to January 2016. I'd just found out that I was unexpectedly pregnant with my eldest son. And they called me into an office, and we knew that there was redundancies happening that day, but I think I'd either buried my head in the sand or just never expected it to be me. I wasn't in a prominent role at the time, so I didn't think that it would make much difference if I was there or not, to be honest. And I was unfortunately given the brown envelope and had to go home, and that just completely tipped my world upside down. And I think the scariest part of it was, I mean, the fact that I was still adjusting to the fact that I was about to become a mum as well. Like that was in itself was a huge mindset change on its own and a terrifying thing. But then going back to feeling like I had to start my career again. It had taken me 10 years from graduation to finally having a permanent role that paid something like a living wage. Finally being settled, and then having all of that flipped upside down again. And of course, the added pressure of I'm about to take time off to be with my son, to give birth, to have the break that I need there. And then having the sort of the fear of getting back into work and having to start again from scratch.
In terms of social media, I mean, it covers a lot of bases anyway, but how would you define your expertise, and how do you help businesses or brands to go through relevant social channels?
So for me, when I started out as a freelancer, so after I got made redundant, I went into freelancing as a social media manager. Funnily enough, the first job that I got came from someone I knew from working at Town 102. So it all sort of fitted together. It all felt like it was happening for a reason. So I have spent several years creating content for clients, and that was my thing for a good few years. But I was starting to struggle with the lack of authenticity around it. The fact that I was writing content for other people just felt a bit off. And then I started getting asked to post in other groups on their behalf, and comment on other posts on their behalf, and send messages on their behalf. And I completely understand the idea of needing to save time, but I was really struggling with the fact that I wasn't them. And I have a really sort of, my core belief is about building genuine relationships through social media, and I believe that's what makes it work. So when the pandemic hit, I sat down and spent some time thinking about what I actually want to do. And it was more around the strategy. It goes back to what I used to do at Asda, the strategy of planning events and planning the marketing around it. That was what I really wanted to do. And I moved into more of a coaching. So where I differ from other people is that I focus on making social media less stressful, less daunting, by helping business owners create a content strategy, create a content plan. I have clients who I put onto a Trello board for the whole month what I suggest they post each day, and they go on and they do it. So they're creating the content themselves, but they're not having to sit and think about what on earth to post. And we're able to kind of pull together the consistency in the messaging then by planning ahead. And of course, the ultimate goal really is for them to turn to me and say, do you know what, we've done so much, and I'm feeling really competent with it now, and I feel like I'm confident enough to go off on my own. But what we tend to find is there's always somewhere else that you can move into with marketing, isn't there? There's email, or there's podcasts, or there's so many other areas that we can then, and that's when I really enjoy it. Once we've got the consistency going on social media and they've got an audience that are regularly engaging, then we can start pushing into areas that they get excited about, like writing blogs or doing guest lives or whatever that it is that they want to do, actually sort of panning out into that. So that I would say is where I differ from others, is the focus on strategy rather than creating the content for people.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of social platforms themselves, I mean, you've got, obviously like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, they're the standard ones, as well as kind of TikTok. But there's also new ones coming about, like Threads and things like that. But do you believe that there's certain platforms that suit certain businesses?
Yes, without a doubt. And I think the problem is the bigger businesses are able to be on all of them, and they're not just present, they are there in your face all the time. When you think about our beloved Ipswich, how often they post on Twitter and Instagram and everything, that is why they get such good engagement, because they're constantly posting.
Yeah.
But they have a whole team of people doing that, and you have to find the balance of what you can manage to do as a business owner, again, to keep it genuine, to keep it authentic. We know we're not talking to Mark Ashton, we're just talking to the latest admin guy, who is, I'm sure, absolutely lovely and does a great job. But it's not with the small businesses. You want to connect with the business owner directly. So you as an owner need to think about, number one, which is working best for you, where have you had most of your leads coming from, but also, where do you enjoy? I had a coaching call with a client yesterday where she's just feeling very drained by Facebook, which I can really relate to, because it just doesn't feel like your content's getting seen. So then we started talking about the fact that she's really enjoying Threads, and how that's like Twitter of the old days, and where everybody's just chatting and so much more positive and nice to each other and uplifting. And that just feels like such a better place to be, and it's not full of sponsored posts and things like that yet. So I said to her, look, we talked about the fact that her group was the place where it was bringing through, that's where she was getting most of her clients from. So I said to her, well, focus on your group. Let's focus on getting engagement built up there, which is a challenge at the minute, but there's ways to do it. But more so she can start enjoying being in there. And then I said, you know what? Once you've got those posts scheduled for your group, go and spend some time on Threads. Go and enjoy it. Go and chat to people. Go and get to know them. And then you can direct them to your group, which is where you can turn it a little bit more businessy. But even that, communities like that, it still needs to be the focus on community, not the selling. And I think that's where a lot of people are going wrong at the minute, is push on sales, because we're all feel like we've got to shout about it all the time to get seen. But really, if we want to buy something, we're going to go with someone we know and that we trust.
Yeah, I mean, well, people buy from people, don't they? And I think, when we do social media campaigns for our clients, we encourage people to either get in front of the camera, whether it's a video or an image, whatever it might be, because people want to know the story behind a brand, but also why that person does what they do. So yeah, there's very key areas there. But going back to you, in terms of your sort of freelancing career, like many business sort of professions, especially in the freelancing world, I guess a constant worry is setting clear expectations, contracts, sourcing new clients, retaining new existing ones as well. So how do you personally overcome these types of challenges amongst doing the actual work, obviously, as well?
Yeah, I really relate to sort of having a clear structure for what you're going to do. The trouble is it changes and it's different for every client. So I think you either need to take an approach of, you have one set package that you offer and they either take it or leave it, or you have a bespoke package, but you kind of, what I've learned is I need to make sure I review it regularly. Quite often I feel like I don't want to bug the client because they've given me this work to take it off their shoulders. But then a few months down the line, I'll realize that actually they've had a question on their mind and they haven't spoken to me for a few weeks. So we haven't cleared that up, and I've come up with a load of content that actually is going completely the wrong direction to what's on their mind. So regular communication, even if it's just a 30-minute call, was something that me and a previous client decided to set up. But for me, it's a strategy. In with relation to social media, it's a strategy, and setting the expectations from the start that my belief is social media isn't about sales. It's about brand awareness. It's about building communication. I will so often sit on a call with a client and they'll be feeling a bit glum because they'll feel like, you know, they've had a masterclass and not had many people book on for it. But actually, when we look at the social media, the engagement's gone up and the reach has gone up in turn. And we know that what we've done is right. It helps you then identify where on the client journey there does need to be adjustments. So me, I think the biggest challenge has been if somebody comes to me and says, Amy, I'm just absolutely desperate for sales, I need to learn to say, well, then I'm not the person you need. I'm there to help you bring more people onto the client journey. But if you're struggling to get the sales, that's a completely different area. I don't want social media to be about that. I know we're going to talk more about this in a minute, but it should be about community and authenticity and getting to know people, not feeling like you're being sold out all the time, because people will just hit unfollow if that's what they feel is happening.
Yeah, especially if they're being bombarded with content they're not engaging with, and hence the strategy. So yeah, completely agree with that. So the other kind of side of it, as you know, that social media can be a bit of a dark place. As an example, I watched a recent documentary where footballer Rio Ferdinand explored the impact of social media it had on players such as Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka, who were subject to obviously vile racial abuse after missing penalties in a major tournament. So if it was up to you, how would you combat these types of issues when it comes to the big social media channels doing more and obviously preventing trolling to this kind of extreme?
It's a challenge, isn't it? Because actually we as the mere mortals, how much is there that we can do? And I do think there is stuff we can do, which I'll come on to. But the first thing is we know it. We know what Twitter is like. It can be absolutely horrendous. Just in the last week, somebody has had to come off Twitter because of the abuse he's been getting for sharing pictures of his son. It's been horrendous. So that in terms of how Twitter can deal with it, it's a challenge because those people will just say, oh, it's banter, and really there's nothing serious in that. So that is more about how we deal with it as humans, which I'll come back to. But just to start, I do think Twitter need to do more about the overtly prejudiced, awful, racist. There's a lot of transphobia out there at the moment. It is terrifying. Homophobia, sexism, as you know, that's something that really matters to me. And I cannot get my head around how they can't just have a function that recognizes these words, deletes and blocks people automatically. I don't understand why that's not. You could have phrases and keywords. They did. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if they introduced it before Elon Musk took over, but they had a function coming into action where if you put a certain word in when you're typing, it asks you, do you really want to type this? So let's say, I mean, God, I always swear, but let's say I put the F word in, or I called someone a rude name, it would ask me and make me think again. Now, for someone like me, I think that probably, maybe not the F word. I like a bit of swearing and a bit of passion. But if it was in anger, it probably would make me stop and think. I don't think it would work for everyone. But if they can do that, why can't they just recognize these tweets with these really awful phrases? Like, for example, the Ipswich fan who got banned for racist phrase thrown towards our captain. That if you just had that phrase as a search that they recognize, right, you're deleted and blocked, there's absolutely no excuse for it, no question. And then that leads me on to, I do think there is a level of responsibility for potentially employers, because if somebody was spouting transphobia, I wouldn't want them associated with my business. But I suppose that comes down to the companies. But I think a level of responsibility from employers saying, if you are tweeting, if you are posting on social media, and people can find that you are connected to this business, then you need that. Saying all views are my own isn't enough.
No.
You need to take responsibility for what you're saying. But for me as well, that like the companies involved, so going to football specifically, the fact that Ipswich banned that specific individual, and they have done that over a few times now, that I think is really important because it sends out a message. Having said that, there's a follow-up there of the fact that he is still at games, and I think the police probably should be stepping. And that's another thing. Where do the police step in? How far does it have to go? Physical threats. I've had to report someone to the police for physical threats before from the football, and they have taken the report on, which is great. But how do they get, like, why is that person still on social media when they physically threatened me? That's like what I do think there's more the platforms should be doing. But on another side of it, if you can't tell, this is something I'm really passionate about. We, from a personal level, can definitely change the way we behave. And I say this from experience. Like, I do not go on Twitter or Facebook at night when I've had a drink anymore, because I know that is 9 times out of 10 is when I've got into a row. I've posted stuff that actually wasn't meant to be offensive but has been taken that way. And I think if I hadn't had a couple of glasses of wine, I wouldn't have jokingly said it, and I would have thought about it.
I think it can be misconstrued though, can't it? Even an email, to a client, or an email to a friend, it can be quite misconstrued sometimes. So I get where you're coming from.
That's so true. That I've had a thing recently, actually, you're absolutely right, where something I said came across really wrong, and I still don't understand what I said wrong, but it is thinking about how you're wording things. So taking from a personal point of view, yes, thinking about the way you're wording things. For me, I tend to have quite short, sarky responses. Like when I'm just reacting, even if it's a nice conversation, I'll just be like, yeah, whatever. Like, and then I go back to it and I think, oh, actually, hang on, that was really quite unfriendly. So I will go back and like have a conversation with people. And if you feel the need for just a short response, is it worth the tweet?
Yeah, well, we talk about obviously the community aspect of it all, and obviously, your role as a content planning person from a social media point of view. I mean, you get to see the beauty of social media, but also you have seen that sort of dark area of social media, as you said, like you've had to report people before. So how do you deal with that as a person, you yourself? How do you deal with that negative comment, that horrible, hateful comment? How do you deal with that?
Funnily enough, I had one the other weekend. It wasn't too bad. It was a sarky comment that then a couple of other people piled on, and I didn't like it. It actually upset me, but I put my phone down and I went. I thought, do you know what? I think I just went and got breakfast and got dressed, and then I was still thinking about it. So I did reply. I didn't reply directly. I'll tell you what I did. I quote tweeted it and then I blocked him because I was just like, do you know what? It's not the first time. So the best thing is taking a breath, which I have not in the past. I have not been good at. I want to defend myself. I'm quite opinionated, as you said at the beginning. So learning that there's a time and a place for that. But actually the best thing you can do for yourself is just go and take a break from it. And sometimes I heard this phrase, there is power in your calm. And sometimes the best thing you can do to win over the trolls on social media is just staying calm and rising above it. Just as you were told to do with the bullies at school, just ignore it and rise above it, and know that if somebody is saying something to you, it is probably because they've got something going on in their own life. It is probably when I have been cross and argumentative on Twitter and Facebook, but when I mainly Twitter, there has always been something else going on in my life, always, and Twitter has been my release.
Mm.
whether it be cross, whether it be like emotional, whatever it is I need at the time, it's usually been, in fact always, there is no exception, it's always been that there's been something else going on in the background, and the way it's come out is through social media. And I do think every single person who has been abusive towards me and who I've seen be abusive towards others, I always think if you're behaving like that, there's something going on.
Podcast anyway, it is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted, good or bad. So this could be personal or professionally as well. So away from business, can you tell us about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
Yeah, actually, there was a period of 3 or 4 years where I would say I was at my lowest, and there was a few factors that came together, which we've already touched on as well, but I think all of it together. So I got made redundant. And the fear, the lack of confidence, it completely knocked me. I'd, as I said before, I'd finally been building a career, which I've been waiting 10 years since graduation to do. So it completely knocked me, and I just had to start from scratch with my self-worth, and it was at the bottom. It was at the lowest it could have been. And that then led to obviously giving birth to Harry, doubting whether I could be a mum, all the worries of work. That then led to postnatal depression, which unfortunately wasn't picked up until he was about 18 months old, slightly less than that. Because like a lot of mums do, I masked it. I felt like I wasn't good enough to be a mum. I wasn't clever enough. I wasn't sensible enough. I definitely wasn't grown up enough. I'm probably the most immature 39-year-old I know, but I was really struggling with that change in lifestyle, and that obviously that led to postnatal depression and anxiety and dealing with that. And in the midst of being diagnosed with postnatal depression, I had the worst episode of trolling on Twitter that I'd ever had. So my confidence was already at its lowest. I was getting constant messages. I was getting people going onto my personal account, taking screenshots of me with Harry, saying, "Oh, I can't believe she's a mum, that poor kid." So I'm at the worst point possible with me and my mental health and my relationship with Harry, and they're basically confirming everything that's going on in my head, confirming me thinking about it. I'll never forget, I put a picture up on Facebook of me having a bath. It was just obviously just my face in the bath. And it was, oh my God, like I've actually managed to give myself a bath. I've had half an hour to myself and I feel so much better. And that got dragged out by the trolls and put, oh, what ugly bitch, that was going around all the way around social media. And that was meant to be me talking about mental health and finally feeling better.
And I know you're a massive sort of advocate for, women in football and all that sort of stuff. So I guess that kind of leads me into my sort of next question really, is that why are you so passionate about that kind of area? And why do you think that, obviously more women should be part of football, and why do you support that?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is because there are women out there who are too fearful to go to games on their own. It is getting better. There's absolutely no question about it. But there are still, I get asked all the time why I bother, because there's no problem. There's loads of women at Ipswich games. So what's the problem? Well, because I know several people who have said they are too scared to go to games on their own. They don't want to. I think I often say that as a man, as a boy growing up, football is just like a natural part of your life. So you kind of, and this, I am stereotyping here because I know that there are Ipswich fans across the country. I know there are men who go on their own and they find that daunting as well. And they shouldn't. If you're going to a Northern away day, message me and we'll go together. But for me, you don't get that as a girl. I used to go with my dad. I didn't have a bunch of friends to go with.
Yeah.
I only found a community to go with because of Twitter. And I ended up hooking up with a bunch of lads, and then from there I've now got really close friends that I go with. So for me, it is, I do often think people think I'm over the top, but it isn't. It's because there are genuinely women out there who are too nervous to go. So when the club got involved with Her Game too, I was really, really excited, because I think that was the club showing how serious this message is.
Yeah.
And I think what it did was it brought out the allies, so the male fans who are supportive of women being there and who would stand up for you if there was any sexism, which there is. It's the odd, like, it sounds silly, but getting my ass grabbed at Bolton away, like that, it sounds silly, and I just ignored it, but that happens all the time. And it was a busy pub, so, but it wasn't an accident. It definitely, the sniggering afterwards, it wasn't an accident, and it's gross. It's completely wrong. And there was that survey a little while ago about, gosh, I wish I could remember the stats off the top of my head, but it was a ridiculously high. I think it was like 70% of women say they have experienced sexist behaviour at some point in games. And there was a lot of defence around with Ipswich fans. There was a lot of female fans saying, look, I generally have a really nice experience. And I was like, I generally do. But there was not one woman that I spoke to who hadn't at some point experienced some form of sexism.
Seem very self-assured in your quest, but also your decision-making process. So where do you think that mentality or mindset comes from?
I love this question, because I am not at all. I think we've talked about it, the self-doubt, the lack of self-worth that I've had, the constant questioning over whether I should be running my own business, whether I'm capable, whether I should be living in Yorkshire, or whether I ought to have been down where my parents were nearby, and my sisters and my aunt. There is constantly a questioning, and I do try and be really honest about my mental health journey and things like that. But
I don't think you'd know, though. You wouldn't know unless having a conversation like this. Obviously, you wouldn't know. So, looking from an outsider's point of view, the work that you do with your clients, the comments you're putting on Twitter and stuff like that, you seem very self-assured. You know what you want from that, and you know how to, essentially kind of combat any negativity, as we've spoken before. So, I think that's kind of why I thought that you would be. But listening to you today, I do understand that you've obviously gone through some tough times that have made you kind of self-doubt a little bit, but generally, I think you can take great confidence from that.
Yeah, I do. I really like that feedback, and I appreciate it. And I think, do you know what? I am my best self when I am being confident.
Yeah.
And I enjoy life when I am being confident. So when I am being visible on a podcast, when I am out there on social media and enjoying myself, then that is my favorite time.
Yeah.
I think what I do is I allow myself to take a step back if I am struggling, which is, funnily enough, last week I just took some time off and away from everything, and now I've come back feeling so much more motivated now. But I think you again have hit the nail on the head. The reason I always come back to those decisions and believing they're the right ones, because I have a goal. I have always wanted to be an independent person. I have always wanted writing to be involved in my career. I've always wanted to have a family, but always strongly believed that in gender equality, and that I wouldn't be a stay-at-home mum. Not a criticism, of course, of stay-at-home mums, but it just wasn't in the pipeline for me.
Yeah.
So without wanting to sound goofy, it's knowing what you want and believing in it, and knowing that you're working towards that.
But you're achieving that, right?
Getting there. Yeah, I think I am, because I do love what I do. I do love what the work I'm doing. I have goals where I want to get to next. I want to do more writing, but whilst I've been building up the social media, that ambition, that dream has had to take a step back.
Yeah.
But I think now that I've got a bit of consistency in the business, now I'm feeling like, I can dedicate a bit more time. Plus my kids are my youngest just about to start school. So I will have 5 days a week where I can do work, whereas normally it's only 3. So I think it's bringing yourself back to, there are circumstances in life that are going to take you off your path. always. I often think that I mean, I've been saying about, Asda, I was finally settled, but actually I wonder if the redundancy happened because I wasn't actually on the right path. Again, that
Yeah.
sounds really woo, doesn't it? And I don't want to sound like that, but
No,
I
I
wasn't doing
believe in
what I
those
wanted to
things. I
do.
think you what's the word I'm looking for? Fate, I suppose.
Yes,
And things happen for a reason, and I am a firm believer in that. And obviously, shit things happen, but also good can come out of that.
definitely,
Obviously,
definitely.
being made redundant at the time obviously wasn't easy, but now look where you are. You're kind of happy in that kind of family unit, but also, you're achieving other things as well in your business, but
Yeah.
also personally as well. So, yeah,
That's very true. You could use Ipswich as an analogy. Getting relegated to League
yeah,
One,
you
the
could do, yeah.
lowest point I've ever felt as an Ipswich fan. But being in League One, got rid of Marcus Evans, got us these new owners, and now sky's the limit. We're going to be in the Premier League next year.
Hope so, yeah, hope so. So it's clear that continuing momentum and working on your own business involves a lot of hours and drive. So how much of an impact does that have on your personal life? You've mentioned your children, your husband and stuff like that. So how much of an impact does your schedule or your work ethic have on that?
It's been hard at times. It's been because I often hear people describing your business as your baby,
Mm,
and it's another. There was a post I read the other day perfectly where you can try and take the time off, but you would never stop thinking about your children. And the business is the same way. There's always going to be ideas or thoughts or worries going through your head about it. So I think that's the thing I've found hardest, is balancing the mental side of things.
yeah.
But for us, there has also been, me and my husband, there's been a battle, and not that he's resisting it, but a battle for equality.
Mm,
I am trying to build my business back up to even just as simple as my income, back up to a level that it was when I met him, so that we can gain some equality in the family. And you know what? That means that I can't always be the one to go and get the kids when they're sick. I can't be the one picking them up every day. I can't be the one that is having to go and book appointments for them. This week, in fact, I've got to do it after this call. I've got to book the dentist appointment. I booked their haircut yesterday. I've got other Harry needs a new inhaler. It's all this stuff that I've had to say to him, do you know what? I can't take it all on.
yeah.
If I'm doing all of that, I can't work. And if I can't work, I get miserable and moany, and you don't want that. So it's finding that balance and getting that respect. And we've had to, as a couple, come to a balance around, like, literally, he walks in the door on a Thursday. I have James at home on a Thursday and a Friday, until September, and then so Luke will walk in the door, and I will go upstairs and I will work until dinner. Not every time. I'm trying to get better at that, to spend more time with the kids, but sometimes I just need a break. Like, I've
Yeah.
had enough of the 3-year-old whining at me all day. So I need him, and he's really good at, he gets in, he gets dinner ready, he gets them ready for bed. I don't have to do bedtime, which is flipping bliss. But that is because that is our balance. I deal with the morning, he deals with the evening. And I think having that balance is really, it's corny, but it's such an overused phrase, but it is really important.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, right, okay, I'm going to put the kids in childcare so that I can work. It's the mental load on top of it as well, because actually running a house and growing a family is a job in itself.
But talking about our club, our love, so following Ipswich Town over the years has been probably more of a chore than it is a pleasure. But I have to end on how you see the club now, and obviously, your journey through Ipswich and your prediction for the season ahead.
I just am absolutely loving football at the moment. I swear the last 2.5 months have just been this massive come down.
Yeah.
From the day we got promoted. I've still got, actually, we just wiped it off. We've got a little blackboard in the front room where on the day that we got promoted, I'd written, "Come on, you Blues," and the boys had done some stuff in blue and white as well. And I just couldn't bear to take it down. And that high is why we've put up with the rest of it
Yeah.
for 20 years. And that was so special. And just seeing, I remember I could feel myself get choked up just thinking about it, like seeing friends at Fleetwood away. I hadn't been there on the day we got promoted. We watched it on Sky from here. I follow from here. So seeing my friends the next week, just giving them this massive hug, like, you deserved that.
Yeah.
This is what you earn. One of my friends had gone on the pitch and he sort of looked a bit sheepish about it. I was like, you deserved it. You've earned it. You do what you want. You enjoy it. But those moments are why you are an Ipswich fan. But the club at the minute, just, they are getting it right.
Just to end on kind of like a bit of a little trivia. So before we end the episode, we can talk about some of the most favourite things that you like in a quick fire round. So if I was to ask you a few questions, so I'll start with favourite food. What would be your favourite food?
Chocolate.
Favourite band or artist?
You're going to laugh. Take that.
Take that.
Yeah. They are my ultimate.
To be fair, they've got some absolute classics. So yeah, I wouldn't discount all that. Favorite TV program or film?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I will go with, oh my goodness, there's just too many to choose from. Favorite TV film, Dawson's Creek.
Favorite place in the world?
Scarborough. I know it's not very glamorous, but
yeah,
I absolutely
love
it
before. Yeah. Favorite famous person?
Oh, there is an easy one. There is an obvious one, Mr. Matt Holland.
Yeah.
My idol.
Favorite memory from your life?
I know that I am a mum of two, and that the answer to this should be their births. Should even be something related to something they've done, but it is without question the 4th goal at Wembley when we got promoted.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a great answer. I was going to end on your favourite Ipswich Town player, past or present. So we'll count as Matt Holland is the present, is your famous person, but your favourite present player?
Connor Chaplin. Absolutely adore him. I think his involvement with the community, with the Rainbow Laces, I just think he seems like a really genuine person, and I honestly believe he's going to be great in the Championship as well. I just think he's. I was talking to somebody this morning. She's a coach of young girls teams, and she was talking about somebody who's just got a natural talent for the game and just does it instinctively. I was like, yeah, that's Connor Chaplin, and I just think, but he genuinely seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I think is really important because we went through a big stage where there weren't many of them, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got to be fair, a decent squad, and Ashton's already said this, that, you know, he wants to bring in players that are part of the culture of the club, that want to go out and support the local community and stuff like that. So it is nice to see that. And obviously, Connor Chaplin is one of those that, you know, really gets behind that. So it's nice to see. So yeah, Amy, honestly, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to sit down with you and, you know, obviously go through your life, your business and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, really appreciate you opening up on certain topics as well. So thank you for that. So to end, perhaps you'd like to tell everyone where they can find the Content Planning Wizard through your website, your social channels and areas like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully I've done my job right and you'll be able to find me on any social media platform. So Facebook and Instagram, I'm Content Planning Wizards. Content Planning Wizard. I do have a Facebook group. So if you're looking for support with your social media and you want to just see where we can start off with, come and get some tips. We're talking about emojis in the groups this week, which was quite a nice conversation. So that group is called the Content Wizards. If you search for it, it will say support for mums, social media support for mums in business. And then I am on Threads now as well under Content Planning Wizard, which I am loving. Or if you are wanting to come and see me moan at people about football and come and get in there about me feminism and all of that, or if you would just like to come and chat if it's more football, then I'm on Twitter as TractorGirlAmy8.
Yeah, and also people can find you on Talking Town, the podcast we're a part of as well. So yeah, if you're an Ipswich fan, go and follow that if you haven't already, and go and start listening to it. So, but otherwise, thank you very much, Amy. I look forward to meeting you in person finally soon, definitely. Hopefully. But yeah, for the rest of you, please make sure you join us next time for a brand new guest as we continue more life lessons from the world of business. So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!